Alright, hi everyone. I'm here with a recent picture book acquisition reading experience. Since I am filming some picture book recommendations, I decided to keep these videos separate to my other book hauls and my wrap-ups, just because at the moment I have been on a picture book buying spree and I'm about to watch a professional learning thing where I've been told so many people added so many books to their list, so there's probably going to be more coming. But I wanted to share some of the recent things that I have acquired. I've tried to group them roughly into some themes and topics, so there will be timestamps so that you can jump around and see what there is. And as always, I will list all of the titles in the description down below. To begin with, I want to start with some holiday titles. This probably will come out after Halloween, but there is a Halloween-ish style title in here. That is Pig the Monster by Aaron Blabey. Pig, the character, is actually a pug, and he has a whole series of books where he basically gets up to mischief and causes trouble and ends up with some kind of karma thing happening to him. And in this one, obviously, it's Halloween and he likes dressing up in all sorts of costumes, and it does eventually end up with him getting into trouble. For such a troublesome, self-centered little animal, he is kind of adorable. And I love these books just for the appearance of the other dog that lives with him, Trevor, who is a little sausage dog, and is just the voice of reason in the entire situation. It makes for a great contrast, but I can't wait to read this one with the kids in the classroom because they are going to love it. And then I have a Christmas title, which I hadn't read before, but it apparently exists, and that is Another Book About Santa by Laura and Philip Bunting. You might recognize the illustration style. I have talked about Philip Bunting books before. I love his books. He just does some fun things. He plays around with a lot of really great jokes and puns and things to do with animals, and wordplay is great. But this one is about how it's a really busy time for Santa. Because it's such a busy time and Santa is really under the pump, they decide to audition for new Santas, like this and this. And it's fun. It really is. My kids love the style of his books. He's obviously co-written this with Laura, and again, their books are always great. So this one is definitely going into my Christmas picture book rotation. Next up, I have one Indigenous title. I do have a few more coming. I was going to save it for that video, but I think I'm just going to mention it here and then continue with those other books when they arrive. This one is Awesome Emu by Gregg. This is a Indigenous Dreamtime story, and it is absolutely stunning. It is the story of Dinawa, who is the emu, who is very tall, fast, and colourful, and all the other animals think he's a bit of a show-off, but Dinawa is kind of too interested in himself to take any notice, and it's what happens to him. So this is a really great one. I love the Dreamtime stories because they're great to share with kids. The next couple of books are all around diversity. I have a classic here, which I can't believe I didn't own a copy of, to be perfectly honest, because I use it every year. And that is I'm Australian Too by Mem Fox and illustrated by Ronna Joy Gosh. This book features a whole host of characters who introduce themselves by who they are, where they come from, and where they live. So it follows a very similar theme. I'm Australian too. My mum was born in Sydney, my dad in Ballarat, and I was born in Melbourne. How Australian is that? How about you? And then you go on to my family came from Ireland back in 1849. A million hungry people died, but now we're doing fine. And each page we switch. So we have Vietnam, we have Sudan, we have China, we have Somalia, and it's just gorgeous because you get to see the great diversity of Australia. When I read this with kids in my class, more than likely they see themselves and their family backgrounds represented here in the book. So it's really great early picture book to start talking about that with kids. So I'm really glad that I finally added this to my collection. And then when I was participating in a PD a couple of weeks ago, a couple of books came up. These one feature characters wearing hijabs. So there is the Rainbow Hijab by Amran Abdi, which is absolutely gorgeous, and it is a total celebration of the hijab. So this is about Amira, who has a favorite hijab. It's a rainbow. It makes her feel really strong in herself, and then she loses it and she's really worried about it, and it's about her finding it and the feelings that are associated with it. It's a gorgeous little book. I think this one is possibly self-published, but a great one to add to your collection. All right, and the next one is another one that I've been meaning to pick up for the longest time, and it is a story that has been written by Ibtihaj Muhammad and S.K. Ali. They put together this book, The Proudest Blue, which is about Asia's first hijab, and it is how other people see her and how other people treat her, but also how her sister sees her through the eyes of this really momentous occasion in her life and how her little sister looks up to her, and it's just gorgeous. It is one of the most beautiful little books. It is about being proud of who you are. It is about the close connection between sisters, and I loved it. It's great. And then we have a couple of books that really deal with feelings and emotions, particularly big feelings. So there is Aroha's Way by Gregg Phillips. This is a New Zealand title, and this is about Aroha as she deals with nervousness and fear and worrying and the things that can really stop us from moving forward. We see that for the most part, she is really happy and go lucky, and she is able to tackle the world, but sometimes fear cripples her and what she does to get out of it. It is a really great book. This one was recommended as a really great picture book for kids coming out of lockdown as well, which is why I purchased it. So I'm really looking forward to using this with my students. Then a title that my sister actually bought because she knows the author, I'm pretty sure. And this book is a picture book that deals with the loss of a loved one and grief, and that is If You Were Here by Elisabeth Sophia. This one's illustrated by Abdi, and this is about a young child who loses a grandparent, and he is trying to process that. And it's beautiful, it's sweet, it is absolutely gorgeous. It is a rhyming story, it is very easily accessible for young children, and while it deals with the loss of a grandparent, it's easily translatable for any situation where a child loses someone close to them in their family. So these books are always really great to know a few titles of because they can really help children who are going through that grieving process. So this one is great, and also the art is just beautiful inside it. And it does have a very hopeful, positive end to it for those people who are wondering. Next up is Don't Forget by Jane Godwin and Anna Walker. This is a dynamite combo in terms of author-illustrator duos in terms of picture books. This is really a way that we can be part of the world, and way that we can take part in small things and how we can look after each other and how we can find the good in every day. So it is an absolutely gorgeous little storybook. I love anything that Jane Godwin publishes. In a lot of ways, this book is really great to reflect on our own experiences. So definitely one to check out if you're interested in that. The last three fiction picture books are all by the same author. These are by Gus Gordon. So there is Somewhere Else, and this is about George, who is a duck who loves to bake and has all these friends who love to go traveling. George has plenty of friends who love to come and see him and love to sample his baked goods, and yet George never goes anywhere. And then he meets Pascal, who does a little bit of digging into why George never goes anywhere. And we finally find out why George doesn't travel, and it's because George can't fly. And so together they come up with a plan to try and find a way for George to be able to fly. And it's great, it's fun. Gus Gordon always writes some really fantastic books, which is why I have 3 of them in this little collection. The next one is The Last Peach. This one is about 2 friends who are flies, and they are arguing over the last peach hanging on a tree. And there are a few other animals who come in to, let them know, well, maybe you don't want to eat that particular peach. They're still faced with this dilemma. Who is going to eat it? It causes some problems between the 2 of them, and they have to work it out. This is really about friendship and sharing, and there is a lovely little twist about the peach at the end of the book as well, which was great and I didn't see coming, so it was very fun. And then there's Finding Francois, and this is absolutely gorgeous. So one of my favorite Gus Gordon books is a book called Herman and Rosie, and I can't remember if I've shared that in a video yet. And it's about 2 friends who cross paths often but never quite meet. And in this one, this is another one about friendships. Actually, this is also another one that could go into that collection of books around dealing with grief and loss. So you have Alice, and she lives with her grandmother, and she loves her life, but she doesn't really have anyone her own age to talk to. And so she casts off a message in a bottle, and it's picked up by Francois, who lives in a lighthouse. And so they begin exchanging messages. And throughout the story, Alice's grandmother passes away, and she tries to learn how to process that grief, and she stops talking to Francois. So they haven't met, but they're still exchanging these messages, and then she stops. And then she confides in the person who's taking care of her. And that person is like, no, let's go and meet him. He's been a good friend to you. Let's actually go and say hello, because you've had this sad thing happen to you, and you need something positive. And so they up and travel off to this lighthouse, and they finally meet Francois. And it is absolutely gorgeous about the power of friendships and the ability to heal after grief, and it's gorgeous. I love this one. This is going to really compete with Herman and Rosie as my favorite Gus Gordon book. And the very last book that I wanted to share with you is actually a non-fiction title, and it is Fauna, Australia's Most Curious Creatures. So this is a non-fiction book all about Australian fauna, and it is a stunning, stunning book. From the illustration style, to the way that information is laid out. So you have double page spreads on some of Australia's most common animals, and the way that information is explained is incredibly kid friendly. So while there is a lot of information, you can actually break up these sections and just look at one part. It takes a lot of those fun facts about animals and uses those to inspire kids to read further. There are some pages where you have multiple animals like sea dwellers, and you turn the page around. This is a page I have to take in and show to one of my students who is obsessed with sugar gliders. We will possibly be spending some time unpacking this page because we will have to, but it's great. It's colorful, it's fun, it has information that kids would really enjoy. There is, you know, some really great pages around the animal family tree, so it does take in a lot of those scientific elements, but makes it accessible for kids, which I love. So this is a really great one to check out if you have a kid that loves non-fiction titles, if you want to learn a little bit more about Australia's animals. We have some truly fascinating creatures here. I know every part of the world does, but some of these are truly fascinating. It's definitely worth checking out if you can get access to it. All right, so those are some of my recent picture book acquisitions. I do love picture books. They are really, really fun to unpack and spend some time with. If you've got this far in the video, thank you very much for watching. I would love to hear your thoughts about any of these books. Have you read any of them before? Are there any that you think you might pick up? Alternatively, if you have any suggestions for picture book themes that you would like to see me film some recommendations for, please leave them down below. I do have a couple planned, but I'm more than happy to change things up. I also have to try and do some middle grade books, but a lot of my middle grade books are at school, so I haven't had a chance to go through them. Also, I think I've lent a lot of them out to one of the other classrooms, so I'll need to sneak in and grab them back just temporarily. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.